On Global News Express, President Tinubu will take full responsibility, says Nigeria will recover. President Tinubu arrives Ikeja to unveil Red Line Rail. ASU laments payments of same salary to members for 15 years. Army recovers 40 wells where oil thieves fetch crude oil. UK-US blast Hong Kong's proposed new security law. And in sports, Paul Pogba banned from football for 4 years. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Express on Global TV. We are live in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. Now the news in full. President Bola Tinubu have appealed for patience from Nigerians over the current economic hardship in the country, giving the assurance that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The president said he was fully aware and took responsibility for the difficulties Nigerians had been subjected to on account of government policies. The president spoke in Akure, the Ondo State capital, during his visit to the leader of the Pan-Yoruba Social Political Organization, Afenifere. President Bola Tinubu has arrived in the Ikeja axis of Lagos State Commission, the Lagos Red Line Rail. Recall Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu had in December 2023 when he unveiled the Lagos Rail Mass Transit Red Line Ikeja overpass promised that the rail would be unveiled by Tinubu before the end of the first quarter of 2024. He added that the Red Line Rail, when operational, would convey about 500,000 passengers daily. Sanwo-Olu said the LRMT Red Line Rail system, the first phase of which project will move more than 500,000 passengers daily, stretches over a distance of 27 kilometers from Agbado to Oyingbo, with 8 stations at Agbado, Iju, Agege, Ikeja, Oshodi, Mushin, Yaba, and terminates at Oyingbo. The Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has inaugurated a newly constituted board of National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NADCOM, with a call on the new management to introduce innovations that will improve Hajj operations in the country. Speaking during the inauguration at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, Shettima urged members to synergize and bring fresh perspectives to the operations of the Commission. The Vice President told the new members that serving on the NADCOM board was very important, given that Hajj is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. The Senate said a nominee for the appointment as a member of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Urum Kalu Eke from Abia State, has rejected his nomination by President Bola Tinubu. Meanwhile, the Senate has confirmed the appointment of 4 other members of the Board of Directors of the CBN forwarded to it by President Bola Tinubu. The confirmation was sequel to the consideration of a report of the screening of the nominee presented by the chairman, Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions by the chairman, Senator Adetokunbo Abiru, APC Lagos East. Those confirmed by the Senate as directors are Robert Agbade, Audo Yakubu Wanka, Professor Murtala Sabo Sagagi, and Muslimat Olanike Aliyu. The National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, in conjunction with the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, PCN, has sealed 1,370 wholesale medicine outlets in Kano over their failure to relocate to the Coordinated Wholesale Center, CWC. The outlets are those operating in the open drug markets of Sabongeri, Malam Kato, and Mekarami in Kano. Director General of NAFDAC, Mojishola Adeyeye, made the disclosure while briefing newsmen in Abuja. She explained that CWCs were established to address the chaotic drug distribution system in Nigeria, adding that the disorderly chain of movement of medicines in the supply chain from the manufacturer to the final consumer is inimical to the efficiency of pharmaceutical products and is the primary cause of substandard and falsified medicines in circulation. Workers at the National Assembly under the aegis of Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria have called for the extension of their retirement to 65 years of age or 40 years of service. Retirement age in the Federal Civil Service is 60 years or 35 years in service, whichever comes first. In a statement by Chairman of the Association, Sunday Sabi, the group has called on Senate to pass the workers' demand into law, adding that the extension of numbers of service years or retirement age was expedient as there was a draft of qualified staff in the legislature resulting from interruption of democracy of Nigerians military. The Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa says the Nigerian military is deploying more non-kinetic methods in light of their effectiveness in combating terrorism and other security challenges in the country. The CDS stated this at a one-day seminar with the theme Civil-Military Relations, a non-kinetic effort of the Nigerian military and security management challenges and prospects, organized by Defense Correspondents Association of Nigeria. Kikelomo Okere tells us more.
The traditional notion of war relying heavily on kinetic means is gradually being relegated, and the Nigerian military now seek to possess and apply non-kinetic approach to project power, secure interests, and solve problems. Speaking at the event, the Chief of Defense Staff says Nigeria, as a diverse and complex nation, faces a mirage of security threats that demand varying attention and concerted efforts to address insurgency and terrorism, intercommunal conflict, as well as transitional organized crimes and the mirror of other security challenges.
The armed forces of Nigeria, being the key driver in countering the myriad of security threats nationwide, has sustained non-military and soft strategies as a means to an end of these multifaceted threats. As Chief of Defense Staff, I'm highly aware of the multidimensional challenges that confront our nation in the domain of security. Nigeria, as a diverse and complex nation, faces a myriad of security threats that demand our unwavering attention and concerted efforts to address.
The Director General, Nigerian Army Resource Center, Major General Garba Wahab, and other stakeholders at the event says there is need to have journalists embedded by the military in its operation planning and execution, adding that embedding journalists in the planning and conduct of operation will help greatly in checking negative reports on the activities of security agencies. They therefore charge media practitioners to be patriotic in the performance of their duties and avoid reports that will be detrimental to national interest and security.
In Nigeria, it is the bad story that sells, and so we tend to look for sensational stories. And if you don't communicate, you cannot expect cooperation, you cannot expect collaboration. It's going to be difficult. And once those three things are absent, coordination becomes very, very difficult. And that's a major fact in the security situation in Nigeria.
Talk about security. When we talk about the situation of war, we all have a role to play. I believe that this gathering gives us an opportunity to x-ray what the military is doing.
I want to continue to appeal to you to please apply lots of restraint when you are handling your jobs. We are all Nigerians.
I'd like to sincerely thank you and commend you for the unwavering commitment of keeping the public informed, just like General Gusau has said, against all odds. Practicing journalism in Nigeria, especially covering the defense bit, has a lot of risks and safety consideration. But against all that, you have been there to ensure that the Nigerian society and the world is informed.
Earlier in his remark, Decan President Ismail Musa says the theme of the event is aimed to reshape participants' minds towards effective service delivery, adding that the seminar is geared towards educating members of defense correspondents and the public about the ongoing soft approach adopted by the military in the quest to further secure the nation. The Armed Forces of Nigeria, being the key defense entry countering the myriad of security threats nationwide, have sustained non-military and soft strategies as a means to putting an end to the multifaceted threats. Kikelomo Okere, Global Television News.
You're watching News Express, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. When News Express returns, Israel shoots 50 dead as Gazans rush to aid trucks. This and more stories coming right after this break. Do stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcasts of News Express. Thank you for staying with us. Over now to our foreign decks, a Gaza emergency doctor have said that Israeli forces shot dead at least 50 people who rushed towards trucks loaded with humanitarian aid for Gaza City residents. A dire humanitarian crisis is unfolding in the war-torn territory, with food shortages greatest in the north of Gaza. One of the crowd in northern Gaza City, Amij Al-Wali, director of the emergency department of Al-Shifa Hospital, said in a statement that the number of martyrs rose to at least 50 and more than 120 were injured, including women and children, as a result of the occupation's shooting. As the Palestinian Prime Minister announced the resignation of his government on Monday, paving the way for a shift. We apologize for that break in transmission, and now the News Express continues. As the Palestinian Prime Minister announced the resignation of his government on Monday, paving the way for a shakeup in the Palestinian Authority, which the U.S. hopes will eventually take on a role in post-war Gaza, as all seeks for a peaceful resolution of Gaza conflict. The Palestinian envoy to Nigeria, Abdul Ashawi, has called on the Israelis and international community to support the process by accepting the 181 resolutions. Global Television correspondent Anthony Momodou reports.
As the Gaza conflict seems to be reaching its end, with Palestinians and Israelis reaching a ceasefire truce and exchange of hostages, the Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, Abdul Al-Shawash, says all actors must recognize the international treaties binding all.
To release many of the Palestinian political prisoners and the Israeli hostages on the hand of Hamas. Peace can be achieved only if and only if we agree, all of us, all of the international community stand to uphold the international law.
He called on Israel to recognize Palestinian people's right to self-determination and existence as a panacea for peace in the region.
Peace can be adopted when and if and only if when Israel recognizes the right of the Palestinians to self-determination, which is a fundamental human right for each and every people all around the world.
As the Palestinian Authority and the U.S. all seeks for peaceful resolution of Gaza conflict, many obstacles remain, but it is hoped a peaceful region will be achieved. Anthony Momodou reporting for Global Television News.
Thank you, Anthony, for that report. The United States and Britain criticized the Hong Kong government of a proposed new national security law, saying it would curtail freedom in the finance hub. Massive pro-democracy protests rocked Hong Kong in 2019, bringing hundreds of thousands of people to the streets to call for greater freedoms. In response, Beijing imposed a national security law to punish four major crimes: secession, supervision, terrorism, and collision with foreign forces, with sentences ranging up to life imprisonment. President Vladimir Putin have warned of a real risk of nuclear war if the West escalates the conflict in Ukraine, offering a defiant and embodied stance in his annual speech to Russians. Speaking in Moscow, Putin says his soldiers were advancing in Ukraine and warned the West of tragic consequences for any country that dared to send troops to Kyiv. But the fresh warning comes with the Kremlin buoyed by recent gains on the battlefield in Ukraine, but also an economy that has largely defied sanctions and ahead of an election certain to extend Putin's term in the Kremlin until 2030. A quick look at business. The federal government has announced that $700 million Obeafu-Obarikum gas pipeline, popularly called OB3, will be completed in March 2024. A project that commenced in 2016. Announced this at the ongoing 7th Nigeria International Energy Summit in Abuja, where President Bola Tinubu also provided some explanations on why his government had to remove petrol subsidy despite how difficult it was. Providing a couple of status report on Nigeria's gas sector during his remark at the summit, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Ekperekpe Ekpo, described the O3B3 gas pipeline as one of the biggest gas transmission systems in both Nigeria and Africa. The Minister of Steel Development, Chaibu Audu, has stated that reviving the Ajaokuta steel mill will cost something in the range of $2 billion to $5 billion. The minister stated this during his visit to the government of Plateau State as part of a visit to the National Multilingual Development Center, NMDC. According to the minister, the huge sum required to revive the company was responsible for the government's piecemeal approach towards getting the plant to work. The minister stated his visit to Jos was to evaluate the infrastructure at the National Meteorological Development Center, NMDC, highlighting his critical role in advancing the country's steel manufacturing initiatives, and also visited the Jos rolling mill. The war against illegal oil bunkering and oil theft received a huge boost as troops of the 6th Division Nigerian Army, Port Harcourt, uncovered over 40 dugout crude oil wells in Ramukbe community and Moha local government area of Rivers State. The troops uncovered the site during a sweep and clear operation on the Trans-Niger Delta pipeline. The operation was led by the General Officer commanding 6th Division, Major General Jamal Abdul Salam. Speaking to journalists after the operation, Abdul Salam said the oil well, which were about 40 feet deep, were the latest technique employed by criminals in stealing crude oil from underground. A low electricity supply witnessed in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, has worsened with the vandalism of the Tower 70 along Gwagwalada-Katampe, Nigerian city of power, has been witnessing frequent power cuts due to low supply to the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, AEDC. The situation had been blamed on the low generation of electricity by power generation companies, which in turn said hefty debt owed by distribution companies was the reason they could not afford to get gas. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, which, while announcing the vandalism, stated that the affected tower is now standing on the ground. On sports, Juventus player Paul Pogba has been banned from football for 4 years following a failed drug test. According to reports by Italian media, football journalist Fabrizio Romano also called this on his X account. Liverpool made pre-tax loss of €9 billion, $11.4 million last season as increased commercial income failed to offset a drop in media and matchday revenues. The club's latest account revealed overall revenue to the end of May 2023 remained static at €594 million after a disappointing campaign on which Jurgen Klopp's men finished 5th in Premier League and made early exit from the Champions League and both domestic cups. The wage bill for the current Premier League loosened rose €7 million to €375 million, and administrative costs climbed by €17 million to €562 million. On entertainment, the city of Boston, Massachusetts, USA, has declared March 2nd as Burna Boy Day in recognition of the Nigerian artist's performance and advocacy works. This was disclosed in a letter signed by Ruth Z. Longshin, the Boston City Councilor. Burna Boy proudly embraces his Nigerian African identity, infusing it with contemporary sounds to create music that resonates with audiences worldwide, thereby challenging stereotypes about African artistry and opening doors for aspiring artists from similar backgrounds. And as we end the News Express, let's take a quick look at our top stories again. President Tinubu will take full responsibility, says Nigeria will recover. President Tinubu has arrived Ikeja to unveil Red Line Rail. ASUU laments payment of same salary to members for 15 years. And then we brought to you that Army has uncovered 40 wells where oil thieves fetch crude oil. And then we said UK-US blast Hong Kong, postponed new security law. And in sports, Paul Pogba has been banned from football for 4 years. And that's it on News Express, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Remember, we're on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching.